A very good uh, afternoon to the Catalyst students. For today's edition of the online classes, we will be looking at what we call homeostasis. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have ever wondered why do you shiver? Why do you sweat? Okay, so sweating and shivering is just one of the processes that happens to your body when it wants to maintain a constant temperature of about 37 degrees. Okay, so another type of homeostasis is also the control of blood glucose. Okay, so let's start with the definition of what homeostasis is. Okay, so we describe homeostasis as a maintenance of a constant internal environment. Okay, so this can start with temperature regulations, and we say that our constant body temperature is 37 degrees. So our bodies have to make sure that our temperature is always at 37 degrees. We already talked about enzymes. Okay, so you don't want your enzymes to work in a temperature which is not at optimum. Okay, so you also don't want your enzymes to work at a temperature which is too high because we know they will be denatured. So your body maintains a constant temperature of 37 degrees. So this process of maintaining a constant temperature is called thermoregulation. Okay, so this is for temperature. It can be done with the help of the hair erector muscles. We know that our bodies are covered with hair. Mammals are covered with hair, especially cats. So what they do is when it's cold, they stand up and then they trap a layer of air inside the hair there, in between the hair, and this keeps them warm. Okay, so temperature regulation, most importantly, is controlled by this part of the brain. This part of the brain is called the hypothalamus. Please don't forget. So let's look at what happens when you are cold. Okay, so when you are cold, your body produces and saves heat. So it does this by shivering. So when you shiver, your muscles contract and then they relax continuously to produce heat. And this keeps you warm. Another process is also called vasoconstriction. So vasoconstriction happens in our arterioles. So vasoconstriction, because our arteries, because our bodies are now cold, your body will maintain heat by limiting the amount of blood that flows through your arteries at the surface of your skin. Another response is also to increase the metabolism, especially to increase the releases of energy through the process called respiration. Okay, so when your body is cold or when the environment is cold, we say we respond by shivering. We also respond by reducing the diameter of our arterioles, and we also increase the rate at which respiration is taking place. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's move on to the second control. The second control has to do with your blood glucose level. Okay, so whenever you consume a carbohydrate, which is a glucose, your body uses what it needs, right? So it uses the amount of carbohydrates or the amount of glucose it needs, and then the rest has to be stored. So how does this happen? So when the body detects an increase in a glucose level in your blood, there are cells in the pancreas which secretes a hormone called insulin. So insulin is always a hormone that is produced when you have excess glucose in your blood. So what does insulin do? So insulin is transported to the liver via the bloodstream, and it goes and instructs the liver to convert the excess glucose to glycogen. Okay, so the difference between glucose and glycogen is that glucose cannot be stored because it's very soluble, while glycogen can be stored. Okay, so that is what happens when you have excess glucose in your blood. So let's look at what happens when you run out of glucose. So when your body runs out of glucose, remember we have the stored glycogen. Okay, so it's a form of glucose, but it is insoluble. So when we run out of glucose, we go and convert the stored glycogen to glucose. This process is done with the help of a hormone called glucagon. So glucagon is also produced by another cells in the pancreas, and it's traveled via the bloodstream to go and instruct the liver to convert